self-determination in the state of current affairs in the world in which we live in today. More specifically, I would like to talk to you about what's going on in Libya. Here in America, there is a man by the name of Walter Hitchcock, a colonel, who once made the statement, freedom isn't free. It's not free. It's paid for by the blood of those who came before us. And as Americans, sometimes we forget that, and we seem to overlook the oppressed peoples of the world, and it seems that their stories are greatly underreported in our news. So I'm going to talk about Libya because there are some great things happening in Libya right now as we speak. This map is actually a historical representation of Libya. It's the historical regions. You have Tripolitania to the north, Hasan to the south, and Cyrenaica to the Cyrenaica borders Egypt, to give you more clarification as to where Libya is located. If you ask the average person on the street, what do they know about Libya? This man comes to mind, Muammar Gaddafi, because he's been the military dictator there for the last 40 years. He came to power in 1969 when he led a military coup overthrowing King Idris. So being a military dictator, any type of dictator is going to have to deal with a certain amount of revolts and rebellions along the way, along his tenure. So he's become, over 40 years, he's become incredibly good at crushing rebellion. So when the latest such revolt popped up, it was business as usual for him. He turned to this man, Abdel Fattah Yunus, to crush the revolt. This is his second in command in his military dictatorship, or at least he was. This man changed the face of Libya overnight when he announced in February of 2011 that not only would he not crush the rebels, but he would actually join them. So he joined the rebel fight against Gaddafi, and this changed Libya forever, because now you have a person who's a major general, who's been with Gaddafi for many years, who has military know-how, experience, and organizational skills to make an overthrow actually possible. And because this man joined the fight, Gaddafi ran out of Libya, and well, not ran out of Libya, but he was thrown out of power and eventually killed. Mr. Yunus, however, gave his life for that cause, because 5 months after he made the announcement, he himself was found brutally murdered. The National Transitional Council made a statement saying that it was loyalists to Gaddafi, which makes sense that it would be people that were fans of Gaddafi, because from that point of view, he would be considered a traitor. However, the Libyan government themselves said no, it was not loyalists to Gaddafi. It was actually the rebels who killed Mr. Yunus out of fear that he was, in fact, a double agent. And both sides have there's rational thinking on both sides, or reason to believe either one, but we don't know who actually was responsible for the death of Abdel Fattah Yunus. But what we do know is that because he joined the fight, Gaddafi is no longer in power. Now, speaking of the NTC, the National Transitional Council, it's believed by a lot of people on the grounds in Libya that the National Transitional Council cannot effectively impose their will or their authority on the entire country. So that's resulting in what we call a localization of authority. Authorities popping up all over the regions. Cyrenaica, for example. Cyrenaica, just this past March, they called a meeting of tribal leaders and military leaders, and they announced their autonomy from Tripolitania. Now, they're announcing their autonomy. That means they're going to do their own thing. And then they formed what they call the Cyrenaica Transitional Council. So they have their own transitional council, and they named this man, Ahmad al-Sinsuzi, as the leader of that transitional council. He's significant because historically, he's actually the grandnephew of King Idris, who was ousted by Muammar Gaddafi. During the Gaddafi regime, Gaddafi imprisoned this man for more than 31 years, and he was released in 2001. Now, anytime you're talking about the Middle East, of course, oil comes into play. Cyrenaica, they've announced their autonomy, but Cyrenaica is the most important region in Libya because they have the oil. That's where all the oil is located. This is important because oil, although we don't get a lot of oil from Cyrenaica, the Europeans and the Asians depend on the Cyrenaica crude because it's what they call a sweet crude. It doesn't have the high sulfur content as we see in the sour crudes, which mainly the United States purchases. But the refineries in Europe and Asia aren't set up to process sour crude. They're set up to process the sweet crude. So this is where they get it from. Now, if there's instability in that region, and for whatever reason these oil wells stop pumping, that will force the Asians and the Europeans to get their oil elsewhere, namely Algeria and Nigeria. That's where the problem comes in for us, because that's where the United States gets its sweet crude from. So if there's more countries in the marketplace for that oil, the price is going to go up, meaning that the price of gasoline is going to go up here. To give you an idea of how important sweet crude is, there was a shortage in 2007 of sweet crude, which resulted in the price of oil shooting up to $140 a barrel. So yeah, this can be a big deal. In the American economy, everything is tied to gasoline. If the price of gas goes up, everything goes up. Everything you buy, potato chips, bread, sugar, popsicles, books, furniture, anything you can possibly think of, because they have this saying in the trucking industry that if you bought it, a trucker brought it. Meaning, so everything that exists that you can literally purchase, at some point it spent life on a truck. It spent a certain amount of time on a truck being transported. That's how goods come from the shipping, from the docks, and from the trains, and gets to the retailers. So if a trucking company has to go up on the price of transportation because of the price of gasoline is going up, then the retailers have to go up on the price of those products. And if the price of all the products goes up drastically, and what people are making, the income levels in this country aren't going up, that's what we refer to as inflation. So this can actually have a big impact on the United States and the rest of the world, in fact, even though it only supplies 2% of the world's oil. Now, I don't have a whole lot of time, so I'm going to go ahead and close it out, but I just want to bring a little bit of light and share some information with you about the country and about what's going on in Libya, and a little bit of the historical significance of this stuff. Here recently, this is the Article 1 of the UN Charter. It states that all peoples have the right to self-determination. By virtue of that right, they are free to determine their political states and freely pursue their economic, social, and cultural development. Anytime you find a dictator, then this is being stepped on. This is the flag of Libya. This is the original flag that was authorized by King Idris. It's now being flown all over the place because the Gaddafi regime is over. The Gaddafi reign is over, and it's kind of symbolic because now it represents the ending of dictatorship. So my only fear for the people of Libya is that they do not replace their dictatorship with a form of a capitalistic dictatorship where Cyrenaicas have all the power, all the money, all the wealth, and they leave out the other two regions. So I hope they're able to come together as a whole and share the wealth, so to speak, because what the fear is in the region is that if Cyrenaica breaks off and they have their own thing and they leave Tripoli and Tanya and Hasan to itself, then it will become a safe haven for radical Muslim thoughts, drug smuggling, gun smuggling, and things of that nature. And we really don't need any more of that in the region. So hopefully things will work out in the entire country of Libya, and it will bleed over into some of the other regions in the Middle East, because the things you do today shape what happens tomorrow. And that's all I have. My name is Theirus Reaux, and thank you for watching.